Greetings, Exile. Slinky here with my day 3-4 update for the Wintertide brand Elementalist League start. This isn't going to go anything really new for people who are following the guide, which is the evasion suppressed version, but for people who are looking for an update on my progression this league, chasing for armor and block, I'll go over a couple changes that I made over the week, and then I will also talk about some of the graph options as well as bloodlines I'm interested in at the end. So if you are someone who's following the traditional guide, feel free to skip ahead to those things, which will be more probably in line with something that you might be interested in. But if you want to watch and see how the armor block route is going, feel free to watch the whole thing. So just a little update on the build and our progression. Yesterday we did complete our Atlas. You can see our Exarch fight, which is one of the most annoying fights. I will die here at some point because I am bad at dodging the ball phase, and Golems make that a little bit more challenging, but the damage overall isn't bad, and you can kind of see that showcased here. But we did kill Eaters as well. That one did with no deaths, so we got our 2-zone finished yesterday. We made some minor changes to the build since our day 1, including updating to CI, which I will include my CI tree swap at level 86, and what gear I was using then, which is a lot similar to the gear I'm using now in the showcase, which I think I'm level 90 or 91 at this point. I swapped a little bit earlier than I told people that you're supposed to, having around like 4,000 energy shield, as you can see, instead of around 5k, and as you can notice, I am CI with 2 life flasks and like 2 mana flasks from the campaign. I still have a level 4 Quicksilver. There's the death. So, don't stubbornly not upgrade your stuff if you want to feel a little more tanky, but I'm okay with eating a couple of deaths here just because of laziness. So I'm planning on updating that stuff today, but if you want to be a little bit tankier, feel free to obviously do those upgrades a little bit sooner. For those who are looking to transition into the CI, please look for ways to like one of the big things that I can't call out in my stream very often is to look for ways to remove bleed or become immune to bleed, including corrupted blood, such as using tattoos. You can craft avoid bleeding on like your boots and stuff like that, as well as using flasks, which I plan on probably using flasks. But fizz dots are a lot of our deaths at the current moment, just because our recovery is not as high, so like our regeneration and recovery of inner shield is not as high, so we can't really outpace the damage at this current moment until we get a little bit more recovery into there. So being able to avoid all that bleed damage is really, really big. Outside of that, getting our next goals are getting our block capped, and also getting more armor, including getting the Aegis Aurora shield, which is going to be our first kind of pseudo big purchase, because we have spent at this point less than a div on this character, including the replica Dragonfang, which I got for 50c. Which I think they're going for more now, but I got mine for 50c. So if you don't need that, if you want to use a rare one, the rare Tollborn or the Tollborn one, which I'm still using, gives you 4 levels, which is still really big, and you can just use that for like 1c, and you don't need the extra levels from replica if you don't want to. And you can use a rare amulet. Other than that, you can also go into a rare Shaper Shield, which has ES on block if you don't want to use Aegis Aurora, or you can save that until much later in the game when you can do a lot better crafting, which is usually what I tend to do, because Aegis Aurora I think is down to now around between 1 and 2D at this moment, so it's not too expensive. It will definitely be like a huge defensive boon for people who are going into the armor block route. All right. This is me also going in to talk to, I was trying to find a guy who talked about the Exarch fight in my last one, and I went to do that. So let's go ahead and we'll look at the actual guide, or at the actual build. This is my current tree. It looks a little weird. Obviously, I'm going over here to grab these block nodes next, which is my next 4 points to get in this whole wheel, to be honest. And then from there, we're likely going to be cleaning up our tree a little bit, but this is kind of where we are at now. Probably cutting off like this side from this point onward and leaving only these 2 points, and moving more stuff into this side of the tree, going into more block, maybe even going to some clusters and so on and so forth. So that is the next goals for it. But yeah, you can kind of see where I updated where I'm at and everything. Only 4,000 inner shield. Block's really low, so we need to get that fixed. And then once we get up to your flask and get good flask up time, which is really easy to do on the armor block one, because you can get the whole gain charges when hit mod, which you can't get on the evasion side. So it's really easy to do flask up time. So once I do those, these numbers will grow up, which is what we're working on probably today and like through the rest of the week, getting everything kind of cleaned up a little bit. But for Grafts, there's a couple of different Grafts we're looking at. So if you are struggling with single target damage, which is usually Wintertide's weak point, the Freezing Toll Graft essentially shoots enemies with ice very often whenever you're chilling them. so that adds a little bit extra damage. And the Battering Old Graft is the one that has the big hand that slam down. Those are also very solid options. Those are actually the ones I'm using currently at this time. I need to upgrade them, obviously. But these are the ones I'm currently using right now, just for a little bit extra damage. And obviously you can get better versions with like actual good stats. Like I don't need crit chance on this. And you get like level 31 and all that kind of stuff definitely helps out as you upgrade. Also a chance to bleed doesn't obviously help. But I'm mostly using one to pick off the ground. You can buy probably cheaper ones off the drove site if you're in trade, but it's whatever. If you wanted to go into a more defensive stance, there are 3 that I recommend for defensive things, depending on what you want to do. So the Aegis Toll Graft gives you some kind of elemental protection. So it is a little shield similar to our Bastion of Elements whenever you apply exposure. So that's not too bad if you want to do that. If you're going into the low life version of the build, the Hardening Old Graft is great for low life, which gives you endurance charge and a little bit more recovery while you're on low life. And then lastly, the Molten Zoth Graft is great for the armor block variants because it gives you extra defenses and also has like usually innate increased armor on there. So that's like kind of like a little molten shell kind of a vibe. As far as bloodlines that we're interested in, we can talk about those down here. The one I'm going to try first, and once again, you don't have to follow me here if you don't want to do it. Let me see if it's good first. If you want to wait, you can always stop by the stream and see how it's going. But I plan on trying out for rules first. I want to try out the Spectres and see if I can, for one, fit Spectres comfortably into the build. Two, have them be defensive. Like we're already tough on sockets, so being able to fit them in is important. And obviously making them sure they can survive is the other important part. If both those are true, then there's some pretty good mods here. So we can go between 2 different ones. If you go for Fertile Will, your Spectre will give you 100% increased damage, regenerate 3% life per second, which is good for the life build, but it also turns that life into ES per second with Zealot's Oath for the ES build, and you can't be stunned, which is also a great defensive boon. If you go for Wild Will, which is more likely what I'm going to go for first, it gives you attack speed, cast speed, movement speed, and prevents action speed from being lowered to below base value. So it kind of gives you the old Trickster node a little bit. So like it's really good defensive. Also, cast speed and movement speed are just great, comfy things to do. Cast speed will help you out with obviously moving around with if you use your Frostbite Burning Blast, like I'm doing currently right now. It'll also increase your brand activation rate, which will increase your DPS uptime. And movement speed is just a great stat. Attack speed doesn't work as much for us unless you're still on the shield charge variant, which is still, once again, very good. And then actually not being slowed by action speed will help with like chill, freeze, petrify, that kind of stuff to make you a little bit more less susceptible to that. This one technically is pseudo okay as a pure, I don't want to deal with critical strikes killing me kind of thing. The other 2 mods of accuracy and crit chance obviously don't work with us, but the cannot take extra damage from critical strikes is pretty big as a defensive layer. But for the armor block route, we already have on the tree a little bit of removal for that, like right here. And you can even take a mastery right here to get an extra 20%, so you're at 50%, and you can get 50% on like, a corruption somewhere, like on your armor, or I think maybe even shields can do it. So that's all options. So that's what I'm probably going to test out first. I already bought the one I want. I bought a Guardian Turtle, Perfect Guardian Turtle. They give you Determination Aura. They give you a PDR. And they're usually innately tanky themselves. So as long as he can survive, I can remove off of Determination Aura myself, put on a different aura that I would like. And I kind of go from there. So that's all kind of things to consider what I'm doing with this one. I'm less in depth about the other ones that we're considering, but I will talk about the ideas for them. So one is if you want to do Delirium, the Embrace Madness thing. If you can find a way to juggle the debuff, so with things like Temporal Rift and just like debuff reduction with like the Ruin Grafts, stuff like that, you can go ahead and use this, and it will increase the damage of enemies taken with Mania stacks. It will reduce their action speed and reduce their life recovery and all that kind of stuff. It's like up to 15 times, so it could be a potential like good defensive as well as offensive mix. But like I said, you have to find a way to manage the debuff. So I may potentially try something in the future, but not my immediate thing I'm interested in. Other than that, Primordial is okay over here. So we don't typically use power charges unless we're going to go into the power charge stacking version using the new Fileborn mod on the, is it Tollgraph? No, not Tollgraph. I'm saying the wrong thing. Tollfall. Tollborn is the one that gives plus levels. Tollfall is the one that gives you cold dot per power charge. So I have an idea of using that as a scaling method later on. So if you're not using the power charge stacking thing, 50% or effect for discipline is not a bad node. And then power charge duration, the small node, is pretty good. Or just charge duration in general. So frenzies are up, and then usually you want to go into endurance charges at some point. can also go up. If you're not going endurance charges and you are still armor based, the determination effect is not bad. Unfortunately, you do use frenzies, so the evasion side of things doesn't look good to use this one. I probably wouldn't go for old Graft old Bloodline if I'm using that stuff. Other than that, the Breach Lord one is also really good. If you can get 4 full-blown items equipped, that's +2 levels. We do not care about the last mod, so don't worry about the chronic rings, because we don't really do hits except for cold snap and like frost blink and stuff like that, and it only applies to the hit. So like the dot on cold snap does not get the ignore the enemy resistances. So like in Wintertide Brand's dot does not ignore the resistances, so you don't have to worry about the last line. But the +2 levels is not bad. But the big thing here is this is super easy and honestly can fit into pretty much any build that doesn't have another bloodline they're really interested in, or maybe a fourth ascendancy node they don't really care about. Because if you use an old Graft, that's 15% less physical damage taken, which is really good. And then obviously you want to use a toll Graft probably, so it's 15% less cold damage is taken, which is kind of whatever, but we'll take it. And then if you're using the damage Grafts, like the battering and the battering old Graft and the freezing toll Graft, the nearby enemies take extra damage from Grafts, is once again just a damage increase. So this is a really solid node for people who don't want to do anything kind of finicky. I think this is probably the safest pick for a Bloodline. And you just drop Bastion of Elements in that case. In fact, in all these cases, you drop a Bastion of Elements. Bastion of Elements is your worst node. So as the one you replace for, usually. The last one I want to talk about is the Trial Master one. I haven't looked at these things too much, but people have brought it up multiple times and talked about different ideas with it, and I think it's very interesting. But using the Trial Master, we can either go into kind of a life stacker kind of a version. Obviously, you don't want to do too much ES with if you're going into this node. You can also go over here and go into more of a permanent uptime or close to permanent uptime with your Vol Cold Snap, including get more Vol Souls. So if you want to focus on more of kind of like a permanent Vol Cold Snap vibe, the Trial Master Bloodline is pretty good. But other than that, all my pieces of gear, or pretty much the same things I had in my CI version, they're all pretty bad. You can see some of them are really bad. This is actually not bad. Rhymes Gaze is super cheap. You can buy that pretty easily, or hope you find it. This is the only one that I've actually spent money on and then purchased and then crafted on. I spent 2 dense fossils on here to get this, and I was like, good enough, and I went with it. You can see I still have a fire damage thing because I ran out of the Elder's currency to change it, but I hit determination on my other ones. So I was like, good enough for now. I'll change it all later once I have more Elder's currency. But you can see like the gloves are pretty bad. Not a lot on here. The boots are okay. They're just like, I have life on it. I'm CI. This doesn't matter. Crafted, movement speed, kind of stuff. Like I said, we already have Rogue Dragon saying, which is great for us. But these rings are abysmal. Just like, honestly, I really should have upgraded these a lot sooner. Kind of abysmal. +2 maximum energy shield. So like you can see the gear isn't super strong. I'm not using proper flasks. And I was able to do my 2 stones relatively easy. I think I'm at 30ish deaths because of stubbornness. If you upgrade a little bit more, you won't have that big of an issue. But just kind of want to showcase that you can get to 2 stone pretty easily. Especially if you're faster than me. I spend a lot of time in my stream kind of talking to chat, helping with their builds, explaining stuff to them. So I'm also just a little bit slower of a player, which is why it's taking me like 3 days to get 2 stones when people get it in like 1 or 2 days typically. But yeah, if y'all have questions, feel free to stop by the stream. I'm streaming pretty much every day for multiple hours every day for the first at least week, and then I'll take probably a day off or whatever to recoup, maybe starting next week. But yeah, I answer questions. People need help with their build. If you have ideas of things or it's just like, hey, what do you think about this? I love taking ideas. I usually keep a list of people's ideas on the side if it sounds something interesting I want to look into. So never feel free to come into the stream and kind of share your thoughts, be constructive. And if you need help, I'm not going to judge you for asking silly questions that other people might judge you for, because we're all here to help learn and grow, and I hope you kind of appreciate that. But for now, that'll be the end of this video. Like I said, if you enjoy the content, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to get monetized on YouTube, and I appreciate every little subscriber helps. That's the last little key part that I need, so I appreciate it. And I'll do another update when I hit another big transition, probably around a week into the league, because like I said, I'm a little bit slower. So I hope to see you guys then, or hope to see you in the stream. All right, that's it for me, chat. Bye.